Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning and welcome to the second day of the 2019 Doha Forum. It's a pleasure to be back with you for what promises to be another fascinating day of discussions and dialogue on this forum's main topics: the role of new emerging powers in shaping the new world order, the role of established institutions, and new models of governance. We'll also be hearing from some of the heads of state and ministers who are here with us at the forum, so there is a lot in store to get to, starting with our first speaker. He is the Defense Minister of Turkey. He's a former four-star general, the Chief of Staff of the Army in Turkey, and it is a pleasure to welcome to the stage Dr. Hulusi Akar.
Thank you very much. Minister, ambassadors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Really, it's a privilege to be here and address such a distinguished audience in such a world-class event forum. I'd like to thank our host before starting my speech, and at the same time, of course, special thanks to my brother, Minister Halit. Ladies and gentlemen, in the first decades of the 21st century, we have entered a more unstable and unpredictable security environment that requires more attention than ever. Conventional threats are accompanied by increased risks such as terrorism, extremist ideologies, failed states, proxy wars, frozen conflicts, mass migration, etc. Taking advantage of this disorderly state of affairs, even terrorist organizations strive to gain legitimacy and, unfortunately, are sometimes considered as partners. In order to better understand, we have to look closely to the ongoing issues. In other words, the actors, the factors, and the risks affecting the developments in international relations have increased. The management and control of these risks and challenges have turned into a matter of greater concern for decision makers. While the risk of the state-on-state conventional warfare has decreased, we are currently being challenged by new and hybrid threats. Transnational terrorism, in particular, is a major threat. Extremist violent groups and individuals are inflicting damage not only on their own countries, but also in distant lands. No country, society, or individual can be fully immune from the reach of terrorism. In order to be able to confront and defuse these new challenges, we have no choice but to adapt our outlook, structures, forces, and processes in all domains to build up our resilience, stay on top of technology, and to look for innovative ways to deal with these challenges. On the other hand, the rise of new challenges also presents possibilities for new areas of cooperation. As Turkey, we are ready and able to increase our dialogue and cooperation in all of these domains with those who wish to strengthen international peace and security. Ladies and gentlemen, Turkey is one of the countries that has unfortunately suffered the most from terrorism and has long been fighting against it in all of its forms and manifestations. In fact, we are facing several major terrorist groups that pose a direct and immediate threat to us. First and foremost among these is the terrorist organization YPG, one extension of one wing of the PKK, which is the one and the same as in the PKK terrorist organization operating in the north of Iraq. When some countries started to supply the YPG under the excuse of fighting against Daesh in Syria, we warned against the risks of trying to defeat one terrorist threat by employing another one. The PKK is widely recognized as a terrorist group. However, it took lots of time to convince people. Now, the same dilemma applies to the classification of the YPG as a terrorist organization. Regrettably and deplorably, YPG continues to receive substantial support from our allies and partners, unfortunately. In fact, each weapon handed over to the YPG ends up in the hands of the PKK, ready to be turned directly against Turkey. Our allies' support to YPG does not change the fact that it's a terrorist organization. Therefore, we launched the Operation Peace Spring on 9 October against YPG terrorists who were indiscriminately targeting our people. I should underline that we have no interest in occupying Syria or changing its demographics, so accusations of invasion, occupation, or ethnic cleansing are simply wrong and misleading. From the very beginning of the Syrian instability, preserving the political unity and territorial integrity of Syria has been a priority for us. Operation Peace Spring is based on the United Nations Charter, United Nations Security Council resolutions, and the Adana Agreement signed in 1998 between Syria and Turkey. Our goals are to protect our borders and people, to put an end to the presence of Daesh, the PKK, YPG terrorists, to prevent a terror corridor in the north of Syria, and to establish a safe zone by this way. So we aim to enable the safe, dignified, and voluntary return of around 2 million displaced Syrians, including Arabs, Kurds, Christians, Yazidis, and Kaldanis, to their lands and homes. I must underline that we have no problem with neither Kurdish people nor any other ethnicity. We are only fighting against terrorist organizations. From the very beginning of the operation, we have been fully committed to protecting civilians, all religious and ethnic groups, as well as historical cultural buildings, the environment, and the civilian infrastructure, as in our previous operations. Even though we had two memorandum of understanding with the United States and the Russian Federation to pause the operation, there are many incidents of violations by the PKK, YPG right after that MOUs. Distinguished guests, in the area of Operation Peace Spring, we currently continue to conduct patrols, establish safety and security, and clear the area of explosive devices, mines, booby traps, etc. The hospital burned down by the YPG in Tel Aviv, and the destroyed water supply and electricity grid have been repaired. Infrastructure is becoming operational, and life is returning to normal in the area. Many public services, such as health and education, are being resumed in the area by our armed forces, government institutions, and some other agencies. All of the religious and ethnic communities who had to flee their villages due to a terrorist presence in the area can now return to their homes safely and voluntarily. The Turkish army will provide for their safety and freedom, including religious freedom. You may be interested to find out that in a survey conducted last month by an international survey company, in the north of eastern part of Syria, the majority of the respondents supported our Operation Peace Spring. We have the name of that institution, but because of the different reasons, I keep it. If you need it, if you like, if you're interested, I can tell you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to mention that since the launch of Operation Peace Spring, Turkey has faced a widespread misinformation campaign based on distorted, fake, and biased news and visuals, as usual. Misleading visuals that were actually taken from earlier conflicts from other parts of the world were distributed via social media to blame Turkey. And we noticed, we have seen even the pictures from Vietnam Times accusing Turkish armed forces. Giving any credit to the fake news and propaganda fabricated by terrorists undermines our fight against terrorism. Our national, moral, ethical, and professional values are at the heart of our operations. In addition to fake news, there are also certain misperceptions. Some depicted this operation as an assault against the territorial integrity and unity of Syria. This is not true. On the contrary to some claims, we launched this operation in order to contribute to the preservation of the territorial integrity and the political unity of Syria against PKK, YPG, Daesh terrorists, which are trying to destroy the integrity and the unity of Syria. Ladies and gentlemen, as I noted before, Turkey is facing more than one major terrorist organization. In this regard, Turkey has been at the forefront also in the fight against Daesh. We have actively participated in the efforts of the international coalition against Daesh and paid a heavy price for it. This is why Daesh has repeatedly attacked Turkey and caused the loss of almost 600 innocent lives in my country. During Operation Euphrates Shield in 2016, almost 3,000 of the most radical Daesh militants, mostly foreign terrorist fighters, were neutralized, but unfortunately we lost 72 brave Turkish soldiers in that operation. During Operation Peace Spring, there was only one Daesh prison within Turkey's area of operations. It was empty when we arrived. The PKK, YPG had released all the prisoners. This is a solid example of YPG's real, true face. In the meantime, almost 500 Daesh militants and family members have been taken into custody or surrendered to the Turkish forces. The recent capture of several senior Daesh leaders by Turkish security forces in the north of Syria is an example indicator of our ongoing successful fight against Daesh. Daesh members of foreign nationality arrested in Turkey are being sent back to their countries of origin in accordance with international law. Ladies and gentlemen, looking over the last 8 years of the Syrian crisis, I believe we can safely say that Turkey has done more for the Syrians and for the region than perhaps any other country. We are hosting 3.6 million Syrians. We are also providing aid and assistance to 3 million IDP, internally displaced people, inside Syria. In terms of GDP, Turkey is the most generous country when it comes to humanitarian donations. However, we cannot shoulder this burden alone anymore. So far, 370,000 Syrians already returned to the areas cleared of terrorists with the previous operations. 150,000 Syrians have also returned to the Operation Peace Spring area up to date. In conclusion, this is important. This is a summary. Especially for the people who came late. Terrorism remains an urgent fundamental security threat to the whole world. All of us should be aware of this. Today, to us, tomorrow, it can be against you. Terrorist organizations may take different names, forms, and strategies, but we must remain vigilant against all their manifestations. They are very dynamic. However, one terrorist organization cannot be defeated by using another. There are some attempts like this. Turkey's commitment to the fight against Daesh, PKK, YPG, and all terrorist organizations will remain solid, no doubt. We have no problem with neither Kurdish people nor any other ethnic or religious groups. We are only fighting against terrorist organizations. PKK, YPG never ever cannot represent Kurds, such as Daesh cannot represent Muslims or Islam. Kurds are our brothers and sisters, sure. We will never allow the formation of a terror corridor in the south of our border, but safe zone already declared by my president within the United Nations summit in September. Turkey will continue to work to help find a lasting political solution to the Syrian conflict. Ultimately, we wish to see a stable, democratic, and politically united Syria as our neighbor. There are many challenges and crises surrounding the Middle East region. We believe that these challenges can only be addressed through regional ownership, mutual understanding, dialogue, and cooperation. For our part, we are ready to cooperate with all legitimate actors to overcome these challenges. I would like to wish you all fruitful discussions during the course of this world-class forum. Thank you.